Now here we go. Now, go, go. Here we go. You ain't never ever seen nothing like this. Never have you ever seen something like me.
Welcome to another episode of Walking with Walfinch, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona at the IFA convention. And today I'm really privileged to have Angela Cote from AC Inc. on board.
You said my name right. I'm really impressed. Thank you for having. This is really cool. I've never done this before.
Well, it's hey, I bring a first for everything.
I
right?
love it. I mean, done podcasts, but not walking podcasts. This is really neat. I appreciate.
Come to life with the murals on the side here.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be my highlight of the time here.
Well, great.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Yeah, thank you.
So,
awesome.
so AC, what do you do? What's AC Inc?
Yeah, so AC Inc. we specialize in education and training for people in the field that are supporting franchisees, and we also do some fractional coaching for brands that maybe they are, they've got 30 or 50 franchisees and they don't quite have a designated field support person. Yeah. So we'll come in and do that coaching as well, over like Zoom and things like that. We don't coach on your brand, we coach on business, leveling up the business. And so, but the primary thing is helping those people in the field, because myself, I'm not sure if we'll get into this, but I've been in that role of supporting franchisees as a young, a young person fresh out of school, knowing the brand, but not knowing how to take care of franchisees. So that's what we're filling, that gap where, how do we help those people be more successful in their role?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I'm walking and talking. This is fun.
Well, apparently there is something in our mind that makes us more creative when we're walking.
Ooh,
so
okay.
Which is also one of the reasons. Get the best out of it. Get all those brain juices flowing.
Love it. Okay.
So, and hey, look, it's you are amazing, right?
Like that is cool.
Look at that.
Yeah,
right?
that is so awesome.
that
is the best. It
go
should
be
say,
awesome, right?
it could say go be awesome.
Yeah, it's almost the same.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
So you've got a really beautiful story in franchising, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if just in a little snapshot, you could give that to us.
Yeah. So I am the daughter of a founder of a franchise company in Canada. That we grew over the years to almost 500 franchise locations. And so I was 5 years old when it started, when my dad started the company. And so I've done everything from dressing up as Kelly Kebab as a kid. I'm sure your kids probably have their work roles, right? So I grew up on the franchisor side, working eventually with franchisees. And so this is, again, where I'm coming from is having been in that field support role, was where I learned probably the most about the true challenges in franchising and that franchisee-franchisor relationship. After that, I spent 18 years as a multi-unit franchisee myself.
And you just exploded that, right? You doubled your forecasted turnover, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it was very interesting for me to go from being somebody who was teaching other people how to do it, and then actually in that role. And I have to admit, it's a lot harder than it looks to be a franchisee. And you're wearing so many hats. Yes, no pun intended, or maybe intended. But yeah, so having been a franchisee, just really understanding, the challenge that franchisees face, was between that and then thinking back to my time in the field was what really led to me saying, I want to help. And people were saying to me like, oh, you should try to, use what you've learned over the years. And, you kind of go, I don't know, what did I learn? But then when I started spending time networking at franchise conferences and things, I started to realize, oh, there's a gap there. And so that's the story that led to what we're doing now.
Which is so interesting. I mean, I've followed your journey quite a bit. And, one of the reasons I wanted to put this podcast out there was to kind of stop bottling these stories up and putting them out there and getting people from across the pond in England to start, looking at the stuff that you guys are up to here. And I've learned so much just by watching and coming to your roundtables and so on that you very kindly invite me to. And it's so interesting. And you talk a lot about field coaching and support and how that looks. How important is field coaching?
Well, as a franchisor, the number one driver of franchise company growth is franchisee profitability,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because franchisee profitability means your franchisees are happy. They probably will take on more territories or locations.
Yeah.
They'll be an ambassador of the brand, and that'll help you grow the company overall. So then I look at, well, who's responsible for their profitability? Is it who is it on the franchise team? Well,
Yeah.
it's the person in the field.
Yeah.
So so proper coaching is so important. And I would argue, or I say all the time, I guess, that there's a transition happening right now from the traditional way that franchisees were supported to this more progressive, proactive approach.
Right.
And that's because I think people were seeing that their franchisees weren't thriving. And
So what was the traditional way?
I would say the traditional way, and this is my interpretation, it's not like an industry
Yeah.
thing, but from my line of sight, we call it hotline support,
Yeah.
or operational support. So the franchisee needs help with, how to take care of the senior
Yeah.
in your case, right?
Yeah.
Or how to order product or whatever it is. Okay, we can help you with that. But they weren't. The traditional way is not to so much proactively coach a franchisee to be a business owner.
Yeah.
So we're really putting emphasis on how do we teach, again, these often younger people that are in the field
Yeah.
or inexperienced or untrained
Yeah.
to teach franchisees to be business owners.
Yeah.
Not just, so the traditional was more call us if you need us.
Yeah.
Check the operations manual for answers,
Yeah.
right? Maybe even having a good learning management system that the franchisee can access
Yeah.
to get training. But
Yeah.
the human element of being there to say, what, proactive coaching is what are your goals? Where do you want to be?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, why did you become a franchisee?
Yeah.
What are you hoping to get out of this? And where do you want to be in 10 years from now? And then let's reverse engineer that
Yeah.
and figure out what do we need to be doing and how are we going to keep you motivated? The
Yeah.
operational hotline support, they call us if they need us, versus this proactive approach is what we're really working on. And the original question you had asked was, why is this important? Well, because that's how you're going to help your franchisees
Yeah.
be successful,
Yeah.
right? No, that sounds pretty obvious, but I think the old method was, well, we told them how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's we're going to train you.
Here's the
Here's
operations
the
manual.
operations
Yeah.
manual, and go have fun.
It really resonates with me because, as you know, I was a franchisee
Yeah.
before
Yeah, you
becoming
get
a
it.
franchisor, and I had that, and for me,
Yeah.
I look around and I thought, well, this is basically what everyone is doing, and
Yeah.
so what I realized, and I took out a franchise in 2012, and I realized within 3 months that my actual mission was to fix this problem.
Yes.
Right. And to
Yeah,
bring franchising and support and the operational piece into the new age. And we've got a whole little ruckus going on
little
over here
entourage.
as well. It's
Okay.
it's show and dinner,
Yeah.
right? So, right.
Exactly. Yeah, but I love that you brought that up about being a franchisee, because that is, that's the thing. You lived and breathed and know that, and that you're now creating a system
Totally.
that doesn't
that
have that
allows
problem.
a multi-unit franchising, that allows coaching, that
Yeah.
says, well, okay, well, I built it to about $1 million in 3 years, and I think, well, if I'd had different coaching, could I have built it to $2 million in 3 years?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at some of our franchisees that are doing those sort of numbers.
Yeah.
And that's, it's not what we tout as average, but I know that when you put the right support in,
Yeah.
and you focus on unit level economics,
Yep.
the
Yeah.
numbers grow, right? There's
Yeah.
ours. So
Yeah.
it's the right thing to be talking about. And I had Greg Nathan on this show,
Yeah,
and
he's amazing.
his kind of last point was focusing on unit level economics, making people profitable,
Yeah.
makes them happy, and works for you too. And it's the ethical, right thing to be doing.
Yeah.
So getting into the support and the coaching. So if I'm an emerging franchisor, which I am actually.
I was like,
But,
okay.
If I wasn't a 700
Yeah.
unit franchisor.
Yeah. Someday, soon,
Yeah,
it's coming.
give us a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I identify with the 700 location.
Yeah, there you go. Identify as, right? I love it.
So, what would you recommend for
Yeah.
an emerging franchisor? How would they put their team together? How do they train their support team? They've got the people.
Yeah.
How do they make those people effective?
Yeah, such a great question. And I guess when you say emerging, there's different
Well, I
even
mean, in
sort
the
of
UK,
stages.
we're like sub 50 is kind of
Okay,
emerging. Here
okay.
it's sub 100, right? You know.
Yeah, it's really subjective. But,
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think I guess I'm going to answer this, and hopefully I'm answering what you're asking. So a lot of times what will happen is, you start to feel, okay, our franchisees are needing more than just that operational support, and that you can get away without the proactive growth coaching usually, at least in the first year, because they're usually just so focused on being in the business, and that's good. I mean, in a perfect world, you'd start it when they sign the franchise agreement, but what happens is around usually the 3-year point, the franchisee starts to, feel the pain, like they are starting to, and it can happen sooner, but so when those pain points start, we recommend you start by looking around at who is maybe already in your network of, somebody that works for one of your franchisees, or maybe your home office team, somebody that's got some good, strong people skills, leadership type qualities.
Another franchisee, this is?
No, I'm thinking like an employee that might be the person then that you level up to have them become your
that
field support
type,
person.
the coach.
The coach, the field. We call it field coach, just again to keep it generic. But and so when people say, like, how do you build that team? Like, how do you do it? It's usually that. It's you look for that right person. Usually there's someone in your network that you're like, I could. Actually, and I'll add this in. I often say there's sort of 3 categories that you want to look for, or sort of characteristics of the person that you're putting in that role. 1, they have to love the brand and know the brand. So passion for the brand, inside out, knowing the brand. Like in my case, as a daughter of the founder, like I knew the brand.
I mean,
I had that one.
You lived the brand.
I
Right?
lived and breathed and bled the brand.
So literally.
So that one, and then there's some business acumen, and it doesn't mean they have to have like, heavy duty business acumen, but to have some understanding of business and how business works. And that one, those both can be, all 3 can really be coached and trained. But to different degrees. I'll maybe come back to that after. The third one is the people side, the people skills, the leadership, and the right DNA to be able to be a good coach. So that's, empathy and, knowing how to create buy-in and things like that. So out of those 3 categories, you're not usually going to get all 3 in one person. So then you can coach and train them to get to that point. So if you bring somebody that's not in the brand and they've got the other 2, and you can coach them on the brand, awesome. But where we specialize at AC Inc. is this 3rd category, because that's where we see the biggest gap. And so people will be really good at, they know the brand, they know business, but they don't know how to get franchisees motivated and to do what they need to do.
The empathy bit and how to kind of get them moving, right?
Yeah, when you say build a team, it's like look for that person. And if you can find somebody that has some of those characteristics, and then figure out what then do you need to coach and train them.
So how would you coach and train them? Like practically, how do you train someone to be good with people and motivate people? So that part really comes to the leadership skills. I'm not, of course, AC Inc. has courses like this. I'm not sure if that's if I can say that. Why not?
We have something called the Academy.
Shamelessly plug, right?
There you go. Well, I mean, that is the answer I have to give, because so we have courses on things like coaching motivation in franchisees. We have even the Strategic Growth Coaching Foundations. It's a 6 session course, and so we go through things like how to find out what the franchisees' longer term goals are, and working with them on that, and again, like communication, and our courses, and I mean there's other leadership type courses out there that you can use. Anything that addresses things like conflict resolution or situational leadership. How do I lead somebody? I have to first learn what leadership style works for them. So really getting into that is how you're going to unlock. We call it unlocking the profitability in your business, because that's the biggest miss.
In practical terms, Angela, what does it actually mean? Like the course, what does it do? Because is it role play stuff? What is it? I mean, I'm really trying to understand how I would train a new member of staff. What tools am I pulling from this course?
So it is definitely, like you said, role play. Like what we do is we bring in examples and case studies of situations that actually happen. Because when you bring together people and it's in our situation, it's on a Zoom call, it's live online, it's not like a pre-recorded, so we intentionally have collaboration
Yeah.
in that situation so that people can bring like the actual challenges. So for example, I'm working with a legacy franchisee,
Yeah.
and they don't think they need me.
Yeah.
And or in my case, I was a young female working with a 50, 60-year-old male franchisee that didn't want to listen to me.
Yeah.
So resistant franchisees, let's talk. Well, what are they saying? Like, here's an example of something they might say. Here's how you might answer that.
Yeah.
Here's how you might do
Yeah.
that. And then, role playing it out. We have homework that we give people. So it's, and it's, when it comes to leadership, it's like, it's really a lot of scenarios,
Yeah.
right? It's like, if this happens, here's how you would do that. Yeah, I think that's the best way I'm going to answer.
No, that's great.
And for what it's worth, we don't only do courses. We also do like one-on-one coaching, or we do sessions. So we'll come in with to a company, and there'll be all of their field team if there's a group, right? If it's a bigger company, and whatever the kind of their pain points are, we'll come in and help them with how to work through those challenges.
So okay. Let's say I hire a new member of staff, and I've got the sort of person power internally to deal with that and to train them.
Yeah.
What should I focus on when I'm looking at field coaches? Where do I train them? How do I'm not talking about specifically the coaching, but I'm sort of thinking, what am I focusing this training on?
So
subject matter wise.
Subject matter. Okay. So they need to know things like how to teach a franchisee about KPIs.
Yeah.
For example, a lot of franchisees, they don't maybe even know what that means.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Or we often hear the PNL.
Yeah.
Like the P&L. So often it's teaching the coaches that, okay, so here's a system, for example, and we'll come in we'll use resources and like trackers.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a tracker you're going to use. It's an Excel spreadsheet that we've created that works with franchisees that, okay, they're going to start measuring, say, we really recommend, just 2 KPIs. Like a lot of franchisors are trying to teach franchisees 30 KPIs that they're looking at. And I'll just say key performance indicators for anybody that needs that. And so, it's like teaching the coaches, how do you get a franchisee to pay attention to those 2 KPIs would be an example of something.
And what would those KPIs be?
Depends on the business, right? But so for example, in my business, when I was a franchisee, when we got super focused on our average sale, it's retail, so average sale per customer and our gross margins, everything changed. We were over $1 million when we weren't making any money, right? So we had to get our costs in line. But then once we got really uber focused on those 2, those KPIs were our most important. It helped us just to stay focused on those. And when we knew, the thing is and this is the kind of thing that the coach can teach, and we teach coaches to teach, is, okay, your average sale per customer is low. What do you do about that? And your business, okay, maybe you're not getting enough new customers. What do you do about that? So in our case, it was like, we teach better sales training, customer service, and things like that.
So you're using the KPIs to identify the problem, and then to fix that problem. So whether that is we're not answering the phones, or whether that's, so it could be a system issue in the branch or location or whatever.
What is the issue that's going on? And then what are the KPIs that should be attached to that? So this is just to answer one. This is one example.
Well, it's interesting because I think often KPIs are the same, right? As in regards to the industry, you're sort of looking at the same thing. You're looking at, cost of acquisition of something, and you're looking at the ROI of something, and so on. But it's kind of just then breaking that down and saying, well, specifically in retail, it might be different to services, but you're generically looking at similar things, or no?
Generally, but sometimes because of the behavior of the franchisee, something's gotten really out of whack. And we're going to look at that KPI in that case. So an example might be, we might be, if it's, say, in the retail, in my case, average sale per customer and gross margin, and again, knowing what do we do if they're off, right? And that comes down to the staff training and coaching and all that, like me as a franchisee doing that. But if our labor costs are way out of whack, then we're going to focus on that as a KPI, as a percentage of sales. So let's get that figured out first, and then, so again, we don't want to look at too many numbers at once. So I would argue that every business should know, in general, the 2 top KPIs what they are and what they benchmark, like what they should be.
Yeah.
Now again, the other variance is different markets, different size of like territories, things like that come into play. So it does get a little more custom than we think. So, and this is just one example of what we coach and train. So like if we're getting a bit more granular here.
But I think it's really interesting because whether you're a Z or a ZOR, you want to be looking at the same thing. I mean, franchisee profitability and that unit level economics, which is basically what interestingly we always just come back to. I mean, that's it, right? So what
they're
about
making money, they're happy.
And that's the
so
thing.
what? So well, another example of something we teach is when it comes to the big pain point for franchisees, attracting and retaining staff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's reverse engineer what's going on.
Yeah.
So what we have our coaches teach, we teach the coaches to teach,
Right.
is leadership in the franchisee's own leadership. So by the way, when it comes, people will acknowledge that maybe they need help with numbers or they need help with HR, policy type stuff or whatever it is. But most people don't want to admit they're not a good leader.
Yeah.
And they maybe don't even know that.
Yeah.
So if the problem is attracting and retaining staff, what is going on that's causing, let's just even go with retaining staff, okay? So what is the franchisee? They're probably not a good leader. Maybe they're not having enough transparency. Maybe they're not involving their staff in things that the staff want to do more of, right? These are leadership issues.
Yeah.
So we have all the tools and resources to know, like, these are the areas to check.
Yeah.
Right? So let's coach the coaches and to use a tool that's going to go in and say, like, let's assess your leadership.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that is because of the joint employer threat. I don't know if that's a thing for you guys as much.
Not as much. I mean,
but if it ever is,
we're
not teaching, we're not telling the franchisee how to be an employer.
Yeah.
We're telling them how to be a good leader.
Yeah.
And what I discovered actually as a franchisee myself is my staff wanted accountability.
Yeah.
They wanted.
Well, people like accountability.
They
right?
like it because they got boundaries,
Yeah.
right? And they wanted, when we involved our staff in the measurement of the metrics or the tracking of the metrics, we found that like they loved being able. They felt so empowered, right? And so these are things that franchisees just don't realize a lot of the time. And so this is when you asked the earlier part, why is field coaching important? Well, because these little things can make such a difference. And not only in the profitability, but the satisfaction the franchisee can have. The franchisees, you probably can relate to this from your time. You get to this point sometimes where you're like, things seem to be getting out of control. Like, I bought this business because I wanted freedom. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Being a business owner.
Well, that's. Oh, that was a silly thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. But I often say, really, what you probably needed was flexibility. Flexibility, right? Like not freedom. But they feel so trapped. You can get to that point where you're like, the business is controlling me. I'm stuck in the day to day. If we could help them get out of that and be focused on growing because of better coaching, then again, like, not just answering their questions, but finding out what drives you. Okay, when you're not getting out into the community. You should be getting out into obviously we don't say you should be, but we know they need to be getting out into the community to be the face of the brand. And they're not doing that. Why not? Oh, it's because they don't know how. They hate networking.
Them, right?
And if they don't know how to say network, let's teach them how to network. So our coaches should be aware of these issues and know how to then work with franchisees when those things come up.
You said something really interesting earlier that kind of is a big problem, I think, within franchising, care, business in general, leadership. So how do you, if you were a franchisor and you had leadership issues with specific franchisees, or you think, well, they've kind of reached they were great, they've reached a maximum here, now they need to go to the next level up. How would you get them to realize
that? That's why I said earlier that people don't want to admit it. But you know what? People think of it as sort of fluffy, but I could say to a franchisee right now, hey, the objective data to know whether or not you're a good leader is your retention level, your productivity of your team. Like what is their productivity level? their satisfaction, like if you do it like a survey to find out if they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, all these things are objective data that you can do to find out. So if that comes back and it says any of those things are not where they should be, well then.
And are they the three key things that you'd say?
There's others I would say. Those are probably the top three. I might be missing just because I'm not.
Okay.
I'd have to think a little bit more, but yeah, anything to do with like, are your staff engaged? Are they leaning? I keep thinking of retail, so
it's fine. I mean,
like, are they leaning on the counter, or they walk in and customers walk in and they're like leaning on the counter? Like, how are your staff acting? Are they doing what you want?
Yeah.
You know, are you happy with how they're acting? Are they empowered? Are they growing in their role? So then, obviously, again, it's an ego thing, right? With leadership. So what I do is I like to, when I get in front of franchisees and speaking engagements and things like that, I like to show them, I get it, I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, I screwed this up.
Yeah.
I definitely.
Then be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
So I think
I
think again, that's a soft skill or a leadership skill that we coach, right?
Yeah.
And so helping, that's actually the magic of coaching right there. When you can help a franchisee realize you're truly there to help them.
Yeah.
And I'm okay to admit that I'm not above you.
Yeah.
And get them to open up and self-assess their weaknesses or their areas of opportunity or their blind spots. That's the magic of coaching.
Yeah.
Like, it's the thing that's missed. And another thing we like to do is use a SWOT analysis. That's another one.
Yeah.
What are your strengths? Like, let them identify.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah.
And that's where that leadership, an opportunity might be, or a threat to them might be losing staff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's look at why that's happening and then dig deeper.
Which is really interesting.
The leadership, of assessing it, but then where were we at?
Yeah. I think we've.
I think we're good there. Is this okay?
Yeah, it's lovely. It's wonderful.
Okay.
So we've got the convention center here. Just done a big loop here.
That's amazing. We should wave to all our friends.
The old Phoenix Convention Center. I couldn't believe how big that place
was.
was.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's wonderful. It
is.
So Angela, we're sort of just conscious of time, and I'm really interested in the field coaching and support. I think that one of the key reasons that I became a franchisor was to develop that and to give the right type of support. I mean, we've got, I think, some of the best support people that we could possibly get, and I know that the success of the business is very neatly tied up with having the system and having a great system that provides unit level economics, but also then having brilliant coaches that can help execute that system.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to franchisors when they're recruiting coaches and field coaches, or whatever the terminology they use is?
Well, I think it starts with mindset, because I see, again, this is in my mind the traditional approach is to put pretty junior people in that role.
Yeah.
So I think the advice is to starting with mindset, recognizing that this is a key role.
Yeah.
Arguably, maybe the most important role,
It's
right?
it. Having been on both sides, this is it.
Yeah. Right. And so I'd say it starts with that mindset and wrapping your head around. So so don't pay them like a junior salary, but also get the right people.
Yeah.
Like, get the more people with the EQ, the emotional intelligence, the social intelligence, soft skills. Different ways of saying that resonate differently with different people. But whether it's again, you can use leadership skills as well. So getting that. Look for that first. I think you can train the business skills, you can train on the brand, and you can train on the coaching skills. Obviously, that's what our courses are all about. But they have to start with the right DNA, and that DNA is understanding people and having that empathetic approach and understanding what coaching is. So
is really
start
wonderful.
there. That's what I would say.
And if you had one piece of advice to give to business owners to say, this is going to help you get to the next stage up.
Franchisees,
franchisors, one piece of advice to anyone listening that, if I do this actionable thing today, it's going to help my business grow, exponentially, and this is it,
Okay, this is my message. Whenever I get an opportunity to get in front of an audience, the number one thing is look in the mirror
Yeah.
instead of looking out the window.
Wonderful.
And that is something I learned from my dad. You know, instead of when in the early days of M&M meat shops
Yeah.
is what it's called. In 1981, you know, no customers were coming in the store, and he was like, instead of looking out the window and saying, it's the weather, or it's the
Yeah.
economy, or it's the government's fault, or
Yeah.
it's my staff's fault.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
Yeah.
What should I do differently?
Yeah.
You got to own your success. You got to. What can I control?
Yeah.
And when you recognize that, it's very empowering.
Yeah.
And then what you can control, the sort of sub point is the other point I wanted to make, but then I went with the owning your success and that. But getting out there, like
Yeah.
people just think business is going to come to you.
Yeah.
But like that's
No.
kind of why I'm wearing what I'm wearing
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, it's great.
Because you got to get out there and get in front of people, and franchisees need to do that more. Franchisors need to do that more, like into where their prospects are.
Yeah.
But
Just
own
get
your
out, yeah.
success. But look in the mirror. What are
Yeah.
you missing?
No, it's great. Thank you so much. And if anyone wants to get hold of you, how do they go about doing
Yeah,
that?
the best thing would be our website.
Yeah.
It's fieldcoachexperts.com.
Yep.
But I'm also super active on LinkedIn.
Yes,
So
yeah.
Angela Cote, and I think it might also say Field Coach Experts
yeah.
on there
Nice,
as
yeah.
well. But yeah, thank you. This has been amazing. It's
Thank
always a
you
treat.
so much for coming and taking time out. It's been great. I mean, for me, the highlight of the convention really has been all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
this is so wonderful. So
Yeah,
thank you so
amazing.
much.
Awesome.
and thank you so much for tuning in to Walking with Walfinch, another episode with the great Angela Cote. Please tune in next time, and looking forward to the next one.